Also joining me this hour, trial attorney Deborah Blum and criminal defense attorney Jodi Jackson with us. Great to have you both here. All right, Deborah, let me ask you the inverse here. If, in fact, there's 6 white people sitting in that jury, do you think the prosecution, and they look out in the jury pool and they see some other jurors who aren't white, who they may want to try to get on that jury, do you think they'll bounce some of those jurors?
Well, thank you for having me on the show. I want to say that, first of all. Yes, absolutely. Both sides have 10 peremptory challenges, which means they don't have to have a for-cause reason to excuse the jurors. So many times when you're picking a jury, a lot of times you just go based on a feeling that you have, whether that person is going to be a good juror, a good fit for your case. So if they see people of color that are African American or Hispanic, they might want to bounce the jurors that they have by using their peremptory and having other jurors come in that would feel that they have been profiled in their life. Because I do think that here the prosecution wants to have jurors who have been the victims themselves of racial profiling.
It's going to be a dicey jury selection process. Joey and Deborah with me all hour. All right, let's bring in our other guests. We've got Deborah Blum with us, as well as Jodi Jackson. This question number 4, and pretrial publicity is what they're talking about right now. And Joey, there's a lot of pretrial publicity in almost every case that we cover. I mean, because we cover the high-profile cases.
Absolutely.
So, do you think, is there something different about the pretrial publicity in this one?
I don't think it's different, but remember the social media revolution and how it's developed and how it's evolved. And so it certainly could be a question that's predicated about Twitter or Facebook or something driven by social media. Have they posted anything about this? Have they formulated and expressed an opinion publicly about this? And so I think that's what potentially could be driving question 4.
All right, Deborah, it's the question we ask in every trial. Do you think we can find jurors who haven't heard about this or can? We can, right? Because we did it in the O.J. Simpson case. We did it in the Casey Anthony case. We did it in Scott Peterson. We did it in Drew Peterson. I think we'll be able to do it in this one, too, don't you?
I'm not going to be able to agree with you on that one.
What?
I think that here...
What?
I think that here there has been so much media attention, and now it's 2013, and so many people have heard about this. Whether you're in Seminole County, Florida, or Los Angeles, California, there's up-to-the-minute news updates on this case. So even if you don't have a TV in your home, most people have internet. They're able to see this on the news. It pops up on most major news stations online. So I really just don't know how people couldn't have heard about this.
All right, they've heard about it, but they will be able to put aside what they've heard about it and base their verdict solely on the evidence presented, right? You agree with me there?
Well, that's up to the defense attorney and the prosecution to eliminate jurors that won't be able to keep their preconceived notions about this case outside of the jury room.
All right. Let me ask Gene Casares. Gene, we've been on all these high-profile trials for all these years. Do you see anything different? And social media, obviously, these days is different, but we've seen social media in the Casey Anthony case as well. Is there anything different going on here?
No, you know, I really see a lot of similarities with the 3 jurors, only 3 that they've individually questioned. But I see similarities between this and Casey Anthony. Jurors that don't really know about the case, don't really watch the news, have watched it 3 or 4 times. You get more in depth, they do know more about it, but they easily say, I can take it and put it aside and not have an opinion. But yet there are certain things, devil's in the details, Vinnie, with some of the things they are saying here. So there's more than meets the surface, more than meets the eye.
Absolutely, and that's why good lawyering will get that stuff out during voir dire. Jodi Jackson, how about once this jury is actually selected? Do they need to be sequestered, or can we trust the jury?
Well, you know what, Vinny? We just had another major case that we dealt with and had the pleasure of speaking about every day, and that jury wasn't sequestered, and the tendency is to believe that they got it right. You know, when you sequester a jury, it really presents a hardship on them personally, on their families, and so that's something that needs to be considered. We've a long time in this country done the honor system. A judge admonishes the jurors, don't think about it, don't talk about it, don't formulate opinions about it, and I really respect that process. So I don't think that the jury needs to be and has to be sequestered in order to reach a fair and honorable decision at the end of the day.
Gene, is there going to be any procedures in place? And maybe they even did it today, because this is the one difference with this case is we expect a few more things to happen outside the courthouse, whether it's people supporting one side or the other or protesting one thing or another. Did they do anything to secretly bring this jury in today?
I'll tell you, there was a long, long line stretching outside of the courthouse and down to the street to get people inside the courtroom, and that's through the public entrance this morning. Now, we don't know who was in that line, but I will tell you that I think the 200 jurors were there. It was just too long. And in this individual questioning today, and it has to do with these 200 jurors, the question has been asked, if this trial goes 4 to 6 weeks and if you are sequestered, will it be a burden on you and your family? That was asked of a woman who has 7 children. And she initially said it would be a burden, but you could tell she wanted to be on the jury so bad. She said, it's fine, I can do it.
Yeah, I need the vacation. This will be a walk in the park compared to dealing with 7 children every day. All right, good stuff, folks. Deborah, Blum, Jodi Jackson back with me. Got in my hands 4 questions that the jury wanted answered but never got asked for one reason or another. Question 357, which was to Janine DeMarte, the expert called by the prosecution. In the interview Jodi gave where she stated, "Mark my words, no jury will ever convict me," do you feel that is part of a borderline personality disorder, especially since she is smiling when she said it? Jodi Jackson, any idea why they wouldn't ask this question of the witness?
You know, well, what ends up happening is the attorneys get together and they both decide, the prosecution and the defense, whether or not and should the jury be posed this question.
I like this one.
If they feel, whether they like it or not, that it could perhaps mislead the jury or not give probative, reliable information, or that it's otherwise relevant, it's nixed. And apparently that's what happened with this question.
All right, question 302. This one was asked to Alice LaViolette, defense expert. If the defendant feels she has a high IQ, is it possible she would try to outsmart psychological tests? That's another great question, Deborah, isn't it?
That is a great question. In my experience in family law, a lot of times people go and meet with a forensics expert, and sometimes those forensics experts give them a series of psychological tests, and people look them up online and they see how to answer. So I do think it's possible when any person's taking a psychological test that they're going to try to give the right answer. And perhaps the prosecution or the defense just felt that that was not a question that should be posed to this particular expert.
Jodi Jackson, I've got one just oozing with sarcasm. My favorite questions from this jury. Number 234. If something is premeditated, is amnesia more or less likely to occur? That's awesome.
It absolutely is, and it gives you a sense of what the jury's thinking. Because of the fact that I've thought about it and I wanted to do it, I just can't remember. And we certainly heard a lot of I don't remember, I don't recall, when it was convenient.
Yeah, there was one other one, wasn't allowed. Question 146. Do you feel you should be punished for what transpired on 6/4/08? Well, as we know now, she will be punished for what happened on 6/4/08.